Hey, it's Norm from Tesla.com. I'm so excited. I'm here at E3 2014 behind closed doors. We're going to a demo of Sony's Morpheus, Project Morpheus. Now we saw this at GDC, but this is updated, there's new games and stuff out, and I'm actually talking to Richard Marks, the director of Sony PlayStation's Magic Lab. You guys developed this. It's been going on for quite a while, right?
Right, we've been working on it since about 2010 actually. We did the tracking part in Magic Lab and we're helping make some of the experiences for Morpheus.
So when PlayStation 4 was being developed, was Project Morpheus part of that consciousness? Was it in the back there, the things that were being put into the hardware?
We are, like I said, back in 2010 we were already starting to work on the technology. So yeah, as we were making PlayStation 4 we knew that we might want to be able to track things like this and do these kind of things that are necessary for virtual reality.
And doing research on virtual reality, which is something that a lot of different companies are doing right now, what were the goals that you wanted to get into Project Morpheus in terms of field of view, latency, to have that immersive gaming experience?
Well, there's a lot of engineering decisions that goes into making a good VR experience. One thing, like you said, we need a wide field of view. That was critical, so the display tech has to be able to support a wide field of view with just a small screen. That's kind of tricky. You need special optics for that. And then we wanted really immersive sound, so we have 3D hardware that comes with a headset. So there's a little box that does the 3D audio. And that gives you a really immersive, just as much as display, sound is important. And then that tracking is so important. You really need to be able to turn your head around full 360 and be tracked while you're doing it.
Right, that's something you guys do, is full 360 tracking with the camera. It's with the eye camera, that's what's tracking the headset?
Right, the headset has these markers on it and it has markers on the back as well. So the camera sees those markers and it knows where you are in the room when you move your head around.
So in choosing the display technology that's going to go in Project Morpheus, obviously this is a prototype. What are the kind of goals that you and your engineering team are targeting in terms of the fidelity?
Well, there's a lot of engineering trade-offs. We really want a high frame rate, we really want low persistence, we really want high resolution, and we really want a nice bright image. So
you want it all. That's wanting it all.
Right. That's our job, is to figure those trade-offs and give the best experience we can to people.
The demo right now, the prototypes we've seen at GDC and presumably here are with LCD screens, like a 1080p screen. Is that close to kind of the target that you want?
We're still evaluating what would be the best thing to make into a commercial version of the product. But right now we have a 1080p screen and we're really happy. It gives you a good field of view and a good resolution to create good experiences. So our developers right now, I think, have a good tool that they can use to make those experiences.
In terms of the motion tracking, obviously you want to have low persistent vision. You want to pull the movement of the user many times. How fast is this being tracked?
Well, the camera, the PlayStation camera, we always run that at 60 frames per second for the positional tracking, and then the inertial sensors that are built into the headset, those are running at 2,000 times a second, so very fast.
Are you doing any tricks in terms of, because you control the hardware both on the rendering side and on the tracking side, on the headset side, any tricks to try to lower that latency as much as possible?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of stuff we do. Actually, always for the PlayStation Move, we had built in this idea of prediction. So based on the sensor data, we can predict where the thing will be in the future. So you can get rid of a little bit of latency by using prediction. You can't do too much of that or you'll get some kind of jitter, but actually a little bit of prediction really works well.
Very cool. And now in terms of the game development on the side, you're going to be working with developers to try to provide them with guidelines for how to make games for great VR experiences. What have you found in terms of developing your prototype so far that works well with PlayStation and Morpheus?
Well, with VR, it's really important to have that feeling that you're actually present. You're not actually, doesn't feel like there's a remote character so much as that you're actually in the world itself. So that changes the gameplay feeling quite a bit. We found that really reaching into the world with the PlayStation Move actually feels great. We found that actually having things where you just kind of use your body to lean, like in Street Luge, that feels really good as a control mechanism in that particular kind of experience. And then other experiences really work well with the DualShock. Our DualShock can be tracked because it also has the light bar on the front. So that is also a kind of a very natural game controller, so you can use that in VR by having the 3D position of it.
And so you're learning motion control, tracking not just the head movement, but other accessories. That leads into the type of games you can develop.
Yeah, I think that there's these different classes. Some, like I said, no controller whatsoever, just your head can be used. Other ones, traditional controller works really well. And then for you really to reach into the world and grab things and stuff, that something like PlayStation Move, a full 6 degree of freedom tracker, is kind of necessary to actually reach into that 3D world.
So Morpheus right now, still a prototype. In terms of things outside of games, are you thinking about how Morpheus could be used for other media experiences?
Well, at PlayStation, our focus is games, but my group's looked at a little bit of non-game things that you could do. Actually, we did a joint project with JPL and took some data from NASA's Curiosity rover on Mars, and we built up a 3D model of Mars, and you can feel like you're really standing on the surface of Mars, and that's really neat. And it's kind of educational. You really, probably most people won't get a chance to stand on Mars, so it's neat to see what it would be like. We're also getting contacted by a lot of kind of the movie industry. They're interested in telling a story in virtual reality and what that might be like. So,
an interactive movie or something.
Right. I think they're really exploring that space. They have no idea how you would do it, but they really want to see if that's a compelling, powerful experience to tell something that way.
Technically, the PlayStation 4 can power and render enough for one of the Morpheus. Are you also thinking about multiplayer experiences, how that might work?
We're expecting only one Morpheus will be connected to a given console, but actually when you network them and have multiple things in VR, it's a really powerful experience over the network. You can see, because of all this rich tracking information we have of your head and maybe your hands, you can actually really get a feeling like there's somebody there. And then our current prototype has a microphone built in too, and then with the 3D spatialized sound, it really sounds like the person is, where their avatar is in VR. You can see their motion. It's a really compelling social experience, actually.
That's very cool. Now, you guys announced it at GDC and it's E3, it's a couple months have gone by. What's the feedback that you've gotten from gamers and from developers, and how has that fed back into how you're developing Morpheus?
It's been tremendous. I mean, it's so great to get that feedback, because there are a lot of people who have done VR in the past, and they're all really excited now and giving us nothing but positive kind of experience, and that is great. It makes us kind of energized to make it even better.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rich. We're very excited to see what PlayStation Morpheus has up next. All right, so we just tried out Project Morpheus here at E3. The hardware doesn't seem like it's changed much.
I think it's the same. I mean, did he confirm? I couldn't hear the interview.
It's basically the same hardware, but what they showed here was games.
Yeah, and again, the thing that really stood out to me is that the games, seeing what real game development studios do with virtual reality versus tech demos that somebody throws together in a few hours is pretty stunning. I did the Castle demo.
So they had two demos here. One was called Castle, and this was something they had at GDC.
Yeah, we didn't see it at GDC, but it was the first thing I'd use to use the Move controllers, and you use them as hand analogs, like analogs for your physical hands. When you squeeze the trigger, then your hands grip, and it gave you the sense of presence again. The same thing that we got in the diving demo at GDC when you bent your knees, except for this wasn't fake. Like, I could move my arms, the hands adjusted. When I turned around to pick up swords, I had to actually turn them the right way so I could pull them out of the rack. It was super, super good. Like, really, really high quality representation.
In terms of motion control, that's something that VR enthusiasts really want. On the Oculus, since that's developed for the PC platform, anyone can make an accessory. You have Kickstarters, you have that STEM system that we saw.
Yeah.
This is on the PlayStation, they control that accessory ecosystem, and so my concern was whether the Move controllers was going to be versatile enough to kind of translate your body, because you're moving elbows, you're twisting your wrist, but you're not moving fingers.
So the thing that it seems like the way they're using the Move controller is primarily tracking the lights, and then using the accelerator and gyroscope to get orientation. The actual movement forward and back, whether I was punching, moving very quickly, moving very slowly, doing precise fine movements, it was all really, really high fidelity. It seemed better than the STEM stuff, although that was, this is a shipping product, the Move, that was a pre-production. The thing that I noticed immediately, though, is that when you cross one line in front of the other, it kind of drops. There's a little bit of a hitch. So either they'll have to smooth that out, or they'll design experiences that don't require crossing over. For example, when I was shooting a crossbow, I held up my right arm so that I could shoot, virtually balance the crossbow on my other arm, and that got a little hinky at times. But overall, the experience was super, super positive and much better than anything I've had to date, especially in terms of hand movement.
And Sony, along with its developers, they've been developing for Move for a long time. So basically, all that same experience you expect from Move right now is what they're using in a virtual space.
And like Oculus with the post-Crystal Cove prototypes, they're using the IR tracking to do a lot of the heavy lifting, and then just using the accelerators and gyroscopes to kind of fill in the gaps, do something you can't get just from the positional towards the light.
So the second demo we saw was completely new for E3. This is called Street Luge.
This is something you do all the time in real life.
Oh, absolutely.
So you have to know.
Yeah, the Berkeley Hills. I get on a skateboard and I slide down at over 100 miles per hour. This one only input for the game was the movement of the head. So the idea is that you're lying on this board, you're going down this road really fast, and you're trying to draft behind cars, slide underneath trucks, look around as you're doing that. but as you tilt your head left and right, that's what's tilting your body.
And it seemed like they wanted you to kind of shift your whole body. You were sitting on a beanbag chair, and they wanted you to kind of rock as if you were actually riding a skateboard. What did it feel like? Did it feel like you're actually going fast?
Visually, this was a very fast-paced game, and what John Carmack had said in one of his, his write-ups about VR is that when the brain works best in VR at a certain speed. Here you weren't
fast or slow?
Slow. For example, walking speed is 1.4 meters per second. This game, you're not doing much except leaning left and right, and so the stimuli, you're not supposed to react. You're not firing. You're not targeting things.
Were you seeing motion blur?
Lots of motion blur. So that was a product of the LCD you're still using. They're still using that same 1080p LCD. Not so much the juddering as so much the persistent vision. As you're looking at the trees or even the birds, things are moving by. Now, in a game where it's supposed to move fast, that could help.
Right.
You're supposed to see that kind of blur, and you're only focusing narrowly, at down the road at the car in front of you. I did feel like I could get motion sick in this game.
Really?
Yeah.
So at the end of the Castle demo, I would have kept playing more if there was more game. Like I did the loop 2 or 3 times while you guys were talking, and I was having fun. Like I was able to, it was kind of sandboxy. You could reach out and grab the dummy, you could pull his arms, you could pull his arms off, punch his head off, stab him. The flail had real physics attached to it, which was really, really kind of fun to play with, both in terms of beating the guy to death, but also just holding it up and kind of punching the ball to see how the physics work.
Right.
That's something it's something I hadn't experienced before. I was having a lot of fun. It's not a full game experience, but I was ready for more at the end of that. It seems like at the end of the luge, you were probably ready to be done.
With the luge, again, it was a really smart demo for them to show off the technology because, when you're snowboarding, when you're skateboarding, the G-forces hold you in place. So the game doesn't need to give you one-to-one direct movement. It's not like you're turning 5 degrees in your head, and then the virtual body is moving. You're kind of slowly over time drafting your body and drifting your body around these corners. I did get a sense of presence where if I wanted to avoid the cars, and when I slammed into the cars and my virtual body went through them, I felt a little bit like, wow, I felt I could have crashed into a car there.
When you moved your feet, did you expect your feet in the game to move?
Not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, because again, it's part of that game design. I'm supposed to be in the straight, like the stilted body and just moving left and right.
I was surprised when I looked down and I didn't have feet. Like that's by the end of that loop, I was feeling like I felt it.
Different degrees of presence, and I think Sony's still working itself out. Again, they're limited by the hardware on the PlayStation 4. It's only going to support one Morpheus, and the only way you can get multiplayer experiences is if you network PlayStations.
But I mean, we have in the past 6 months seen updates from Epic with the Unreal Engine that promise fairly substantial performance gains as people move from the current version of the Unreal Engine to the next version of the Unreal Engine. So, it kind of remains to be seen. They still don't have a release date. They're not talking about, it's not going to be a 2014 product. It may not even be a 2015 product.
Yeah.
Sony can afford to sit on it and wait until they get it to the point that they feel like it's ready. And they seem aware of that.
So that's our Morpheus demo and impressions from E3 2014 with plenty more other VR demos here at E3. Go check out our YouTube link below.
See you guys later.
Bye.